Hey there, Tupetonians, and you too. Short talk about the Rio number 2, I guess we'll call this one. Hey, look for that in the header, except it's a little late for that, Mike. They're already watching. Who? Nobody. Anyway, never mind that. Just sitting here walking along thinking, there's certain amateur broadcasters, myself included, who are pretty much free to say just about whatever we like because we're below the radar. And so I thought, well, maybe I should take advantage of that. In other words, this is for the record to be pressed against me. The last video I was talking about achieving a true stateless state, as it were, as a sort of a legal strategy to avoid being identified with, in any case, with this coming New World Order, quack. The thing's a piece of garbage. The picture in the book of Daniel looks like feet where they try to join what? Iron and clay. How's that going to work? I'd say not well. So on one hand, it's overly rigid, and then it's fragile, and there's no true cohesion. There's no bonding. That's what they're standing on. That's their platform, as it were. And so anyway, I was just sitting there thinking today, in a sense, it's kind of nice being an invisible dude, because I can make these videos and they'll be brought against me as evidence in some case in the future, probably, very likely. If they need anything to incriminate me by, I'm providing all kinds of evidence for it. I mean, I'm saying stuff like, I love Jesus and stuff. And so, and pointing out that the great ones among us, boy, that's a lot harder to see. The light that's out here is really fierce, and all I've got is this really ghosty image. I think that's my head. Anyway, one hand gets kind of itchy, and then I think I'm getting bit by bugs is what it is. Anyhow, never mind that. Walking along, I'm sitting here thinking today, in terms of where the world is headed, if we can, prognosticate anything at all, and I think a lot of folks have a real strong drift. The church appears to be asleep at the switch, and what I mean by that is she's being hardened, and it'll result in something called the great apostasy. In other words, they're building toward an apostate disunion, as it were, in the church. What is the heart of the great apostasy? Well, it's got to be linked, I think, really to the great desolation, the desolation which makes abominable, the abominable. It's one of the few verses in the whole New Testament where it says, let the reader have understanding. In other words, we're to plead with God for understanding by the power of the Spirit as He reveals His truth and wisdom, especially through the Scripture, taught by sound doctrine, that kind of thing, clean interpretation. Well, anyhow, thinking about that stuff some today, I was just kind of mumbling along to myself and thinking, with what we're looking at here, the church, is she just asleep at the switch now? I mean, is she aware that there is a period very near the end, and here's where all your eschatologies get askew, called the Great Tribulation. Now, it's denominated, as we understand it, 3.5 years. That's ballparkish. 42 months shows up that way. Shows up in Daniel 1290 and 1335, and I don't think you add those together. I think you add 45 to 1290. Anyway, the situation is, if the great apostasy be upon us, then we are de facto in the great tribulation, because the abomination has occurred and the Spirit has lifted off of earth. Go rule it yourself, you unthankful sods. You've gone too far. The abomination has occurred. I will have nothing to do with it. It's God the Spirit turning His back on this world. Rule it yourself, you lying thief, you murderous sod. And the Son of God, He shall come, and He shall judge you with your pants down, right in the very act, the last moment you expected. And the thing is, it comes like a bear trap, pow, on the world. Nobody sees it coming. And yet there are signs, and we are to understand the seasons we live in. If we're actually getting close to that 3.5 year period, and I honestly believe that it might inaugurate 1 October of 2025, and that's just the way I'm reckoning it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll eat my words. gladly, but we're going to have to involve once again clock time. So in other words, it has been the last days, lo, these many years, since the Apostle Peter, at least, spoke those words out of Joel. We are in the last days, but the question is, in terms of this, there's only one area, and it receives quite a bit of, intense scrutiny in the New Testament, and even in the Old somewhat, that 3.5 year period. That thing jumps out. It's one of the few things in all of the Bible that has a clock time function attached. There are stories, yeah, and for 70 years they shall, etc., etc. And 400 years later, your children shall come out, and this kind of thing. Yes, there are, but it's linked to the prophetic, clearly. But it would be a deeply significant time if we're actually near, clockwise, calendar counting, the beginning of those days. And according to Daniel, I guess the final sum would be 1,335 days. Well, do the math. You're probably going to want to use something called a 360-day year because you're going to get sideways. But never mind. In other words, it's 3.5-ish. This whole mumbo-jumbo of the rapturists of somehow taking that number, 3.5, 42 months. I said 40, a time, times, and half a time. Did I mention the number of days? Keep repeating the idea. So, I guess what we're supposed to do is double that to 7, huh? What? Why not triple it? What are you talking about? But at any rate, so I'm not a rapturist. I believe the church is going through the tribulation, and many of her shall fall, and the book of the Revelation says so. They were slain during those days, beheaded for the testimony of Yeshua. So the church ain't going to just bug out, zap, see ya, the proverbial poop is going to hit that impeller, we're gone. No. Anyway, the point is, all the disaster of that so-called theology is a huge handicap. And the church is asleep at the switch. She's simply unable, as a body, except for, teachers here and there. There's, guys on the World Wide Web and, even star preachers who are onto it, that we could very well be in those mega historic days. That's very, very near the appearance of the Son of Man on earth, standing alive, clothed in power, glory, light, and in righteous indignation, expressing wrath from on high against his traitorous foes. They shall burn. Anyway, the thing is, all that's missing. It's just not there in the church. She won't mention justice. She won't mention judgment. She won't mention that we're getting very close, I think, to those 3.5 year period. And one of the clues is going to be that the abomination has occurred. There is a worldwide leader. We don't have one now. There may be candidates and whatnot. I don't care who that pervert ends up being. The point is, he's the worst man ever. He's essentially the un-Jesus. If Jesus is the most humble and true and fiercely loyal and clean and sober and honest and good, just for starters, this guy's like the photographic opposite, the negative. But he looks good, I guess. He looks like something. Got that image thing going on. So anyway, if we're getting close to those days, and the church, she just kind of keeps dogging along in her catechism lessons, and let's repeat those prayers that we've been doing, and boom, 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 and let's sing those same. I'm not opposed to any of that stuff. But wake up. Arm yourselves with the truth. We are in dire times indeed. We are upon the verge of losing everything as Christians. If you stay true to Christianity, you will lose your respect in the community. You might lose your job. You might lose your freedom. You might lose your life. You might lose a lot of things, including hope. Don't lose hope. That's the one thing you can't lose, because he's the one who guarantees it. You didn't begin it, and you ain't going to finish it. He, our hope, lives, and he is strong and good. He walks beside us as we go. So I just wanted to kind of pass that on to you today, that there's a sense, I think, in my mind so often I just want to give up and think, good God. This church, I don't know. Maybe she needs a little, more caffeine, as I call it, the Christian drug of choice. I pass some of that stuff around on Sundays. That's what I call it, too. And when we get into the kind of the blues, thinking about how grotesque things are getting, how out of whack, how just very, very wrong in so many ways, that our best experts among us, our leaders, the inspiring ones, are unable to determine what a woman might be. Well, the Lord knows, Adam knows, and the second Adam knows better, and he's come for his bride, and he will not be denied. He shall have the victory, for he has already won it. And in that he shall capture the hearts and minds of every last one of his children. And when that last little rascal comes back in home, then he can come. That's my attitude. Peace, and you guys have a good day. How do you like that 60s stuff, huh? Bye-bye.